They're not paying attention. That's all.
Yeah,
because the Democrats have always been for the working people.
Exactly, and the Republicans don't care.
I think the message of the Democrats sounded elitist. You don't have value in the society.
They
if you don't have a
sounded
college
that way,
degree.
but when you look at the proof,
but Joy, it's condescending. It's condescending. There is
What's condescending?
The way that the left speaks to its voters. It really is.
A message of joy and inclusiveness.
No, the message of not being educated, being dumb, and what's wrong with America.
Who said that?
Sonny just did.
Why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms? He's going to deport the majority of his community.
White women like being called uneducated white women.
That's not what Kamala Harris said.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
My point is, I don't blame Joe Biden. I don't blame Kamala Harris. Go back as far as you want. I blame a messaging within the Democratic Party.
You don't blame the Republican
Party? Can I just
Party
finish
at all?
my point, please?
Jimmy Kimmel literally cries on live TV, and I'm going to show you guys that in a second, but these are the absolute worst top meltdowns after Donald Trump won the election, guys. Some of these people are just crazy. And you're not going to believe how the View hosts are attacking each other after blaming uneducated white women for Kamala Harris's election loss. How freaking racist is that? Unbelievable.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for our allies in Ukraine. Guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize.
Just so we're clear.
I'm in another country. I don't know how this is happening. Wake up! I'm going to get drunk today, and I'm going to act like an angry black woman because I'm fucking angry! 4B movement for real. Man, fuck all of you.
I think if you voted for Donald Trump, you're ugly. Y'all are broke as
I'm gonna be leaving the US and I'm gonna be moving to Hawaii.
I'm not coming back. I'm never coming back here until he leaves the house.
Bye.
You are so sad about your groceries being expensive. Get a better.
At the moment Trump announced, or that it was announced that Trump won SOT 3, and Charlie's reaction.
Let's go. There it is.
Everybody should remember this moment. Look, I'm gonna echo Charlie from earlier. Remember where you were when this happened.
And if anyone deserves to get tears in his eyes, it's Charlie.
You know what's crazy, guys, is I normally do not participate in presidential elections. But for some reason, this presidential election was just different. I voted in previous elections, but my level of participation was, the most I could do is vote, rarely even have a conversation. But this particular election with Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, there was something different here. I think that it was just very clear to me that I could not stand idle by and watch this woman ruin our country even further. And, her teammate, Tim Walz, I'm like, yo, this guy is not a leader. This is not the kind of guy I want, my kid. Not that my kid looks up to political leaders, but I'm just saying this is not the kind of guy that I want in office leading this country. That's scary. And it became very, very clear to me that Donald Trump was the answer. And to be honest with you, I'll never forget where I was when I got the news that Donald Trump became the president of the United States. It was like, wow, this really happened, because you got to remember, Trump was the same guy who they almost took out. They almost took the guy out. And if that didn't make you think something was off, think about it. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't realize how much lies are being told in mainstream media. They don't realize it. They do not realize that the media is constantly lying. And largely, the media is highly supportive of the left. It's like the left is in their back pocket, or the media is in the back pocket of the left. However you want to look at it, they're in bed together. And a lot of people just don't realize it. The amount of lies, the coercion that they execute together is just unreal. But here's the thing, guys. They chose Donald Trump for whatever reason to attack. And this is and it's funny because all of these attacks with all these fictitious lawsuits and whatever all these fake lawsuits. It really made me wonder, wow, what is this guy? Why is this huge organization so fearful of this guy that they're willing to throw all these fake lawsuits at him and even try to take his life away from him? Like, that really made me pay very close attention. What are you guys trying to hide? So, I mean, just to say that he's the president of the United States, I mean, I'm pretty sure Melania Trump is just happy that the man is still here. But to be able to say, hey, Melania Trump is the first lady of the United States of America again, Barron Trump has got to be proud of his dad. I mean, this is a moment, guys. Wow. So check this guy out, right? So you got Alan Lichtman. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this guy, Alan Lichtman, presidential historian. Alan Lichtman with details for why his prediction that Vice President Kamala Harris would defeat President-elect Donald Trump in the race for the White House was incorrect. Now, this guy was hailed. Alan Lichtman was hailed as like this expert, this guy who, you know, like he's like the weatherman for presidential election predictions. And turns out his bet was it was off. It was wrong. Clearly, Kamala Harris lost. Liberals are pissed. Liberals are angry. They're losing it. Lefties are pissed. But here's his reaction. But we gotta talk about Lichtman's reaction. We gotta talk about Alan Lichtman's reaction, Mr. Lichtman. And let me know your thoughts, guys. I want to know where you stand on this. Hit me up in the comment section down below. We got a lot to cover.
Predicts Sir will win the 2024 presidential election.
Based on my system, the keys to the White House, which has been right since I predicted Ronald Reagan's re-election in April 1982, Kamala Harris will become the first woman president, and she will be the first president of African and East Asian mixed descent.
Based on your model, these are your 13 keys. It's true or false questions that look at the strength and the performance of the party that's in the White House. What leads you to that conclusion, Professor, that it's Kamala Harris who will win?
We don't look at polls. We don't pay attention to pundits who don't have a scientific basis. It takes 6 or more negative keys to count out the White House party, Kamala Harris, and the Democrats. I find definitively they have only lost 4 keys. The mandate key, because they lost U.S. House seats in 2022. The incumbency key, because it's now an open seat. The incumbent charisma, because whatever you may think of Harris, she's not a Franklin Roosevelt, one of those once-in-a-generation, transformational, inspiring candidates. That's 3. 4 is foreign policy failure. Gaza is a humanitarian disaster with no end in sight, and the U.S. is very heavily invested there. So that's only 4 keys down, 2 keys short of a predicted defeat.
What about the fact that your keys and your prediction have come before tonight, the only debate between these two candidates?
I deliberately issued my predictions before the debate to get across to people of the U.S. and the world that it's governance, not campaigning, that counts. Debates do not predict election outcomes. Hillary Clinton won the debates and still lost. John Kerry won the debates in 2004 against a very bad debater, George W. Bush, and still lost. I'm not saying you shouldn't watch the debate and gain insights from the debate. I'm saying we need to break out of this meaningless.
Now, guys, this is the same guy who, you know, he says he ignores the polls. Like, he's clearly out of tune with a lot of things. He just knows everything. He's the Nostradamus of elections, predictions, and whatnot. Like, but clearly this guy doesn't know everything. This guy must have thought he was the god. He was the savior of America to be able to provide these predictions, and he didn't know squat. But first, let's see this guy making these predictions and how he reacts shortly after discovering the inevitable, as he realizes that the jagged edges of reality have now dashed his dreams asunder. Watch.
Pennsylvania, to be honest with you.
You're nuts, dude. You're nuts.
I know, I can't.
You're nuts.
But not based on the vote, but based on how far ahead she is compared to Biden.
Okay.
Still giving New York Times Trump a slight edge.
In Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I don't see it. Wow. I think she's going to win Pennsylvania, despite what the New York Times is projecting.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, they don't know anything.
How she doesn't win Pennsylvania.
I agree.
Because she won Pennsylvania and she's doing better.
Don't get too wrapped up in the New York Times projection. I don't even know if they're mathematically sound. Don't get too wrapped up in them.
I'm worried about everything. I still think she's going to win Pennsylvania, but...
Yeah, me too. What is looking iffy to you right now?
The New York Times is projecting Trump to win all 3 of the blue all states.
What?
Yep. A lot of processing of mail ballots in Pennsylvania.
Well,
they not counting them until today.
49.3% for Bucks in Harris when it was 51 for Biden. Philadelphia 78 for Harris when it was 81 for Biden.
Not good. Votes that are going to be counted tomorrow.
Dad, there's not going to be that many. But
it's probably not going to be enough. Well, there may be other votes. Remember, overseas votes can come in late.
Doesn't that count as provisional votes? Or no? It has to. That's counted in provisional votes. Yeah.
You know, God, what is...
It's funny, the level of denial here. He's like trying to come up with all these circumstances and reasons for why these numbers can't possibly be right.
What is our country coming to?
This is the first moment of the night where I've lost hope a little bit.
Good thing I have nothing to do tomorrow.
Yeah, I took off work tomorrow.
And I'm not doing any interviews.
Good.
Just like Kamala Harris, ain't doing no interviews. Guys, when we see all these crazy lefties losing it, I mean, it just shows the mindset of these people. Like, what the heck is going through these people's minds? Some of these folks are crazy. I'm not saying all lefties are crazy. I'm not saying all liberals are crazy. But there's a good amount of these folks that are like, I would never hang out with you. I'm just saying. But when I saw Jimmy Kimmel react this way, Jimmy Kimmel actually broke down in tears. Watch.
It was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, and it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Wow. Jimmy Kimmel, guys. Jimmy freaking Kimmel. Same guy who was, promoting Kamala Harris as the greatest thing since sliced bread. One of the many people who are coming to the reality, who are coming to terms with, this thing is over. Donald Trump is now the president of the United States. Well, there you have it, folks. Well, guys, we have a lot to cover. We really do. And obviously, the big news is that Donald Trump is now the president-elect of the United States. And I think we're already starting to see liberals lose their minds. We're already starting to see some of the liberal objectives starting to crumble as we speak. I mean, forget the fact that Kamala Harris is done. Forget about that. Forget about all of that, right? What we are starting to see is their behind the scenes plan begin to unravel here. Why do you need to continue to provide food and benefits to illegal immigrants if your objective is clearly behind us now? It's been destroyed. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is the fact that we know that they wanted to bring in all of these newcomers, these illegal immigrants into the United States in order to have some influence on the voting decision of the president of the United States, and not just the United States president, but they also wanted to be able to have voting decisions at the local levels, at the local municipalities, in the counties, in the city levels. Those are easier to manipulate, right? Well, now that Donald Trump is the president of the United States, it looks like they're starting to change their tune, and they no longer need to do some of the things that they were planning to do before that were costing the city billions of dollars. So I want you guys to listen to Mayor Eric Adams as he begins to add some color into what they're no longer going to be doing and how they're about to start yanking these these benefits away from illegal immigrants. Watch.
To the mayor of New York. Lots of news involving Adams today, and today he's joining us live on Eyewitness News.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We want to start.
Good to see you both.
Yes, great to see you too. We want to start with your decision late this afternoon to end that food voucher program for immigrants. What led to this decision, and why now?
Well, it was an emergency contract for a sunsetting 1 year. That was what it was in place for 1 year. Now we have moved away from emergency response because we have had a constant decrease in our population, and now we're going to the procurement process that we do now for food. But we've been successful with that program. We brought down food waste. We were able to get several thousand individuals to have culturally sensitive food at the same time, and it was successful for the time being. And now we move into the general putting out the RFPs that are needed. It was an emergency, and now we're moving in another direction.
Well, I think personally that they're moving in another direction because they no longer need these people. They don't care about them. They only wanted them to come into this country. They were only busing them into the country and flying them into the country because they wanted their votes, because they wanted their support, because they wanted to replace the black vote that was dwindling with a new population of people that they could more easily persuade. And now that the presidential elections are now behind them and they're not going to be running the country for the next 4 years, well, they're ready to just pretty much throw all of these people to the wayside and turn their backs on them. It's pretty awful.
Funding, of course, the big issue surrounding the city, and has been the big issue surrounding your tenure to some degree. Let's talk about some other crucial issues, though. You talked yesterday to President-elect Trump. What did you talk about, and did it involve any funding for New York City, or perhaps lack of funding?
Well, I've been very consistent about private conversations. I don't go into them, but I'm clear. I'm here to fight on behalf of this city. You can't hold your breath and wait 4 years before you start bringing back those resources to the city. We have a new president, and I'm going to collaborate with his administration to deal with some pressing issues that are facing our city, particularly around funding. When you look at the billions of dollars we spent with the migrants and asylum seekers, we got very little help from the federal government, and I think it's imperative that we engage on the right foot to say New York needs infrastructure, affordability, and other big-ticket items.
Wow, guys. Wow. I think it's very clear that the United States of America as a whole is definitely headed in a new direction. And I think we're already seeing that take place right in front of us here with the remarks and more importantly, I don't care what people say. I care way more about what people do. And the actions that Mayor Eric Adams is taking right here and right now, this tells you everything you need to know.
Democrats are a little bit confused about what to do. They're trying to figure out why their campaign message fell on deaf ears, and the finger pointing has begun. Watch this.
Senator Bernie Sanders, he says that he has suggested that party leadership abandon the working class. What's the White House response?
I respectfully disagree with the senator, and I think you can talk to unions. You could see the jobs that we've been able to create to disprove that. And this is a president that cares certainly about the people who do get forgotten, the people who are not able to make ends meet. He understands what it's like to sit around a kitchen table trying to figure out how you're going to pay for a medical bill, how are you going to pay for your kids' school, how are you going to pay for groceries. And so does the vice president.
So do you think Bernie was right about this, that they didn't pay attention enough to the working class?
He's absolutely right, but his solutions are wrong. Kamala Harris outperformed him in Vermont. The lesson Democrats should take is not we didn't run far enough to the left. They lost rural voters. They lost working class voters. And Listen, I was someone who I'm recognizing, reflecting on this election. I had the privilege of saying I'm voting on democracy because I'm a high-income earner. If your check engine light is on and you've got bills piling up on the table, you're not thinking about democracy. You're not thinking about the war in Ukraine. You're thinking about how will my life be better tomorrow.
Wow. So this is pretty cool. So here you have a woman who clearly has just admitted that she is a high income earner. And she just openly admits that, look, I don't worry about the same things that lower income earners worry about. And I think that Kamala Harris would have had a better opportunity to connect with voters if she stopped bullshitting us, acting like she's middle class when she isn't, acting like she understands what the middle class folks are going through when she doesn't have to deal with that.
And the reality is this, we all sat around kind of wondering who is the swing voter that will decide this election? And a lot of folks thought it was women and abortion. No, it turns out it was people in the suburbs who are like, I can't stand Donald Trump's personality. I don't like how he talks, but my life was better off economically when he was president. And I'm struck by this.
But that's the middle class. We're talking about the working class.
I'm talking broadly. Yeah. He was not just the working class that he won. He also got the largest
Hold your horses, Joy Behar.
share of young voters for Republicans since 2008. That was the height of the financial crisis. Young voters, maybe they care about Gaza, maybe they care about student loans, but to be honest, 2/3 of this country doesn't even get to go to college. They were thinking, am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to afford the life that I want? And finally, suburban women, sure, they definitely care about abortion. They also care that they're paying to send their kids to college and their graduations are being canceled because there's protests everywhere and because people are out in the streets demonstrating over a war somewhere else rather than just being able to educate their kids. There is so much room for self-reflection from the Democrats, and I hope they have it. Every time Joe Biden bragged about how good the economy is, another vote of someone struggling went to Donald Trump.
Wow, the gaslighting. And then, this woman here is literally just calling out so many of the fatal flaws of the Democratic Party. And someone needs to actually basically this is the reality check that's needed. This is what we've been talking about from during the elections, during the campaigns, during the debates. It's like these folks, they're so freaking disconnected. I can't tell you how many times Corinne Jean-Pierre would get up to the podium, gaslight the American people about how good the economy is when it was nothing more than a shit show.
Anybody? I disagree.
All right.
I think I'd like to reframe the conversation. I think Bernie Sanders is wrong. I think the more relevant question actually is what is wrong with America? I think what is wrong with our country that the Republican Party would choose as a candidate and support a candidate who is an insurrectionist, who is an election denier, who is someone who is twice impeached, 34-time convicted felon, someone who has been accused of alleged sexual misconduct by 26 women found liable for sexual abuse. What is wrong with this country that they would choose a message of divisiveness?
What do you guys think about Sunny Hostin of The View's earrings? I actually really like her earrings. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. These are freaking beautiful. I completely disagree with like 99% of what she just said, but those earrings are beautiful. Oh, wow. How do you even put those on? Does she have like piercings in the upper part of her ear? Anyway, guys, I'm sorry. I might have ADD, so I get distracted from time to time.
Of xenophobia, of racism, of misogyny, over a message of inclusiveness, a message for the people, by the people, of the people. That is what the problem is. It's the Republican Party.
But can I say something before we can do a second? The Democrats are the ones. They are the party that cares for the blue collar voter. The Democrats are the ones who put in Social Security.
The Democrats are the ones that market that they are for the blue collar worker class of America, but they're not actually for the working class blue collar America. Or now, as the more conservative side is actually calling the muscle class.
Medicare, Medicaid, union protection,
ACA,
unemployment insurance, and Obamacare. The Republican Party doesn't give a rat's patootie about
clearly
it.
they didn't convince
Come on.
the voters.
So all I can deduce,
Where's Joy Behar getting all this nonsense from? The majority of the income that the Kamala Harris Joe Biden campaign collected in terms of donations came from billionaires and like nine-figure net worth individuals and corporations. So this is completely baseless here. The majority of the money that they were raising was actually coming from super wealthy people. So what is she talking about?
Can deduce is that it's the messaging. It didn't get through to people. They're not paying attention. That's all.
Yeah,
because the Democrats have always been for the working people.
Exactly, and the Republicans don't care.
I think the message of the Democrats sounded elitist. You don't have value in the society.
They
if you don't have a
sounded
college
that way,
degree.
but when you look at the proof,
yeah,
they weren't.
but Joy, it's condescending. It's condescending. There is
What's condescending?
The way that the left speaks to its voters. It really is
a message of joy and inclusiveness.
No, the message of not being educated, being dumb, and what's wrong with America.
Who said that?
Sonny just did.
What is wrong with America?
My point.
Hell, Sonny just said it the other day, talking about like where were the uneducated white women who voted for Trump? This is exactly what Sonny Hostin said the other day.
Why do you think that uneducated white women voted against their reproductive health freedoms, and why do you think Latino men voted in favor of someone that's going to says he's going to deport the majority of his community?
White women like being called uneducated white women.
That's not what Kamala Harris said.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
My point is, I don't blame Joe Biden. I don't blame Kamala Harris. Go back as far as you want. I blame a messaging within the Democratic Party.
You don't blame the Republican Party
Can I just
at
finish
all?
my point, please? I obviously have a problem. Anyone has a problem with Donald Trump. The bigger question should be, yes, Sonny, why did they vote for him?
Yes.
In sweeping...
So they need to be introspective.
No, we need to be introspective. If we voted for Kamala Harris, we need to say, what didn't resonate with the voters? Do you know what didn't resonate with the voters? When they were saying we don't feel safe, and the left focused on defund the police and bail reform.
Yeah.
When they said we're worrying about... Can I just finish? Let me just finish real quickly. When they were focused on
It's only an hour show, ladies.
Joy, when they were focused on renaming schools, there were people saying, hey, students are destroying colleges. I paid for that. I sent them there. They can't learn. And everyone apologized for it and didn't want to attend to it. They also denied the border was a crisis and kept saying, no, it's fine. This is not a...
There was a border bill, though. There was a border bill.
Yes, but Joy, my point is they screamed. They didn't vote for him because he's a racist or a misogynist. They voted because they needed help in their everyday lives.
But Sarah,
the majority of this country, because every stat coming out on the people willing to self-reflect are showing these.
Oh, wait, they're going to say I'm a racist and a misogynist in the exit poll?
Joy,
I don't
really think
so.
74 million people are racist.
Who's going to say that?
Every racist and misogynist voted for Donald Trump. Not everyone that voted for Donald Trump was a racist and misogynist.
I agree with that.
Everyone swept.
Boom.
They swept every category, and the reason they did is to say, hey guys, no excuses this time.
Yeah. Look,
they lost everything.
There's still
a country
half the
that
country
allows
that
its
doesn't agree with
environment to
him.
be ravaged, its children to be shot, its wealth to be hoarded, its worker to be exploited, its poor to starve, its cops to murder.
So you think America's the
country
problem?
in trouble?
So America's
so
the
we
problem,
and
and the
Trump is
voters
not
are
going to
the
make it
Anna,
back.
hold it for the next segment, right?
Wow, guys. Wow. They're literally blowing up here on The View. This is a massive loss for the Democratic Party, for lefties. This is why lefties are losing it. And the thing is that the Democratic Party, or at least those who are in charge of running this thing, they're completely disconnected from the American people. All of these different problems existed, but they continued to gaslight us. They continue to get up on this podium, get in front of the American people, convince all of these news networks, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, you name it, they all were basically singing the same tune. Oh, America's great. Ignore the fact that the immigration border crisis was hitting its highs. Ignore the fact that we have a huge socio disconnect between what America should be doing in terms of supporting or abandoning the policies related to Israel, Hamas, and Gaza. The Biden administration, Kamala Harris, and all of these folks in charge from the Democratic Party have basically ignored the American people for far too long. The Democratic Party says that, hey, we are for the working class, we're for the blue collar worker, but yet the concerns of the blue collar worker went ignored for far too long, and America voted. America made their decision. America made it clear that, sure, you can ignore us all you want, but we're not going to keep supporting you and getting behind you. You want to go ahead and blame black men for not voting for Kamala Harris? Go right ahead. You want to go ahead and blame uneducated white women, as Sonny Hostin has said previously on The View, for not voting for Kamala Harris? Go right ahead. You want to blame black men for being misogynist and not wanting to have a woman president here in the United States because, you know, the only reason why black men don't vote for her is because she's black or because she's a woman, rather. You know, this is complete bull. It is complete bull. They want to make up all these excuses and continue to gaslight. And the simple fact of the matter is that they couldn't continue to do it anymore. They couldn't continue to do it anymore. Some people decided to wake up and actually start listening and educating themselves. And folks say to themselves, hey, was I better off financially under the Trump administration or under the Biden administration? That's the simple question. I mean, at least from an economic standpoint. And then you got the protests taking place left and right at all these different colleges, Columbia University, and, you know, the protests that were taking place all over New York City, blocking bridges, both in New York City and bridges in California, shutting them down. How much is America willing to take? I think America has finally spoken. And if we look at what Mayor Eric Adams is doing already, it looks like they're starting to unwind a lot of the free money that they were handing out to these illegal immigrants. And they're starting to wind down a lot of this rhetoric and a lot of the practices that were allowing these folks to come into the country, not just for free, but basically paying these people to come in. So America has spoken. By the way, guys, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video if you appreciate the content. Definitely consider subscribing to the channel. I totally appreciate you guys. And let me know your thoughts, guys. I want to know where you stand on this. Hit me up in the comment section down below. We got a lot to cover in future videos. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. And, you know, whether it's Donald Trump that ends up winning the election or if it's Kamala Harris, oh, God, we're in a world of a pickle, as my grandfather would say. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you know, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system was just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And it's kind of funny because where I used to work with a lot of married men. And a lot of those married men would always complain about their spouses as if they really just didn't even like their spouses, which is sounding like a pretty horrible situation. But that was the case for many of them. They didn't like who they were married to. But I was different. Anyway, through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. I mean, but this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax or a tax on the poor. I mean, I'm now at a point where, you know, like, number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. But more importantly, check out my previous videos, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.